Hi, warm greetings to everyone. I'm here to speak on various aspects of the enteral nutrition in a unique population of COVID 19 critically ill patients. In my short lecture, I will enumerate on how COVID critically ill patients are different from non COVID ICU patients, the importance of nutritional delivery in such patients, various challenges related to enteral nutrition delivery, and what are the recommendations from various societies and guidelines regarding the nutritional management of this unique population. So let's begin. Now the question remains, when we talk about the critical illness, we cannot forget the COVID 19, and now the question we must ask is, are COVID 19 critically ill different from non COVID ICU patients? And the answer is yes, because of various reasons. They are older, they have higher prevalence of comorbid illness with high degree of sarcopenia, frailty, and before presenting to ICU, these patients are frequently sick for about 9 to 15 days, that is persistent fever, asthenia, lack of appetite, reduced food intake, leading to energy deficit before their ICU admission. These characteristics promote the risk of electrolyte imbalances, that is hypophosphatemia, as a result of refeeding syndrome. So the refeeding syndrome risk is very high in these patients. There will be higher prevalence of hyperglycemia, as high as 80% in this population. There will be 30% patients who will have GI intolerance. The most common reason for admission to ICU is hypoxemic respiratory failure, that is type 1 respiratory failure, and that is the reason the most of such patients are on NIV and HFNC support when you look at COVID 19 ICU. The survivors of COVID 19 ICU are staying for long periods, that is 10 to 20 days inside ICU, and that's why the risk of development of malnutrition is very high. Okay, so these are the points where we can differentiate COVID 19 critically ill patients from non COVID critically ill patients. So let's talk about the importance of nutrition in COVID ICU. What is the rationale? See, both critical illness and COVID 19 are hypercatabolic, hyperinflamed, charged with hypercytokinemia, that is cytokine storm, IL-1, IL-6, TNF-alpha, IL-12. Various cytokines are elevated to very high level in COVID 19 critical care patients, and therefore there is increased energy expenditure due to high metabolic demand in these patients. The patients on NIV HFNC require more energy to take part in physiotherapy, and during recovery they require more energy, more protein. Catabolism in the muscle lead to muscle degradation and muscle wasting over a time they are in ICU. So that is the reason during critical illness muscle wasting occurs due to inflammatory cytokine attack, disuse and immobilization inside ICU. Other contributing factors are hyperglycemia, invasive mechanical ventilation, multiple organ dysfunction, multiple organ failure, chemical paralysis and steroid use. In a clinical investigations involving 63 critically ill patients on mechanical ventilation, serial ultrasound was performed on day 1, day 3, day 7 and day 10 regarding the measurement of the cross-sectional area of rectus femoris muscle. Okay, and then they plotted this graph and they found that there was 17% loss in muscle thickness over 10-day ICU stay, and that was very huge. So you can understand that in a simple, in a plain, in a very undiluted critical illness, there is loss of muscle over 10 days, about 20% muscle loss. Okay. So what would happen in COVID-19 critical ill patient? Because there is double hit of inflammatory response. Is malnutrition common in COVID-19 hospitalized patients? The answer is yes, very common. This specific study has looked into 114 patients, determining the true prevalence of malnutrition, and it was 66.7% in patients admitted in ICU. So quite high. What are the current challenges of EN delivery? This is the core content of this lecture. The challenges we face as healthcare provider, or the challenges patients face during the enteral nutrition delivery. So the first and foremost is why patient deny food. There is reduced oral intake in any inflammatory disease, in this case the COVID-19, which develop the aversion to food before they present to ICU. Okay. Then there is also the altered smell sensation, altered taste sensation, okay, dysgeusia, and also nausea and vomiting due to inflammatory cytokines and drugs they get, and awake proning. That also causes difficult problem to take any feed during the time when they are awake prone. Patients on NIV pose different set of challenges. Okay, they are basically having the gastric distension with the continuous air insufflation during CPAP, aerophagia, and they desaturate while oral feeding. So that's why the oral feeding is contraindicated when they are on an IV. But how will you feed them? So definitely you are going to place an RT when they are not able to take orally, or the oral feeding is contraindicated during an IV. So that is also a problem. It is quite difficult to place an RT in patients on an IV because of dryness of mouth, nasal passage is blocked with crusted, dried secretions. Oral mucosa is very dry, so they cannot swallow during the RT placement. And also on the top of that, agitated patients, and they remove accidentally, or they remove themselves RT because they are very non-compliant to the NIV support. And also, even if the RT is in place in an IV patient, the physician is not going to start RT feed due to the fear of aspiration pneumonitis. If such patients are in the prone position, studies have documented high gastric residual volume. So these are the challenges in patients who are on an IV and in which you want to start gastric feeding. So definitely it is going to decrease the energy delivery and protein delivery in such patients. There are some logistic challenges also, like staffing issues, significant exposure risk, significant fear or anxiety. Mobility and dexterity is limited due to PPE kit. Very difficult to work inside the PPE kit, So staff is not going to go into the patient's room every now and then. So the entry to the patient area, patient room, cubicle is very, very restricted due to significant exposure risk to the staff. So you have very limited opportunity to feed them. Other issues related to enteral nutrition are high risk of GI intolerance, as I have discussed before. About 30% of the patients in COVID-19 critical care are going to develop gastric ileus, distension, and nausea, vomiting, etc. Then there is a very small group of the patient who develop worsening hemodynamics due to that there is a compromised GERD perfusion, and you don't want to start the enteral feeding in such patients. And there is also high risk of repeating syndrome due to prolonged starvation before they present to ICU. Okay. So what are the practical guidance of the nutritional treatment of these patients? So this is the guidance given by European consensus guideline. COVID-19 patients in the ICU likely to be malnourished. So they know that these patients have very high likelihood of malnourishment, and definitely we have to start the feeding within 24 to 48 hours following ICU admission. Okay, and preferably enteral nutrition should be the first choice, but you have to prevent the refeeding syndrome, for which you have to have the values of magnesium, phosphate, and potassium. Okay, and the correction will be required during the feeding, so you have to monitor them every day when the patient is on parenteral nutrition, and every third day if the patient is on enteral nutrition. What is the guidelines? What guidelines say about the calorie target? So these guidelines have taken the data from the non-COVID guidelines, and they say traditionally we have to feed with 20 to 25 kilocalorie per kg per day, and the protein target should be more than 1.2 gram per kg per day. Okay, so in my ICU, my protein target for a critical ill COVID-19 patient is up to 2 gram per kg, and the calorie target we start at 10 to 20 kilocalorie per kg per day on day 1, and we slowly increase after 3rd to 7th day enteral delivery. What about the route? Gastric or post-pyloric food route? So the route is always gastric because it is easy to place the arise tube compared to the nasojejunal tube, one. And second, in studies they have not found any advantage of putting the gastric post-pyloric route compared to the gastric. Okay, so that is why gastric is preferred due to its simplicity, and also it is quite easy to monitor. Okay, the timing, the commencement should be begin within 24 to 48 hours, and we should always be starting with hypocaloric nutrition, that is 70% of the requirement, and it is recommended for the first 3 to 7 days, and slowly you can increase up to 100% of the requirement. The enteral formula, they say, should be energy rich, okay, 1.25 to 1.5 kilocalorie per ml, to control the volume of the feed so that there will be lesser chances of aspiration pneumonia. And they suggest to give the high protein polymeric formula. Continuous versus bolus, obviously continuous is better because there will be lesser risk of aspiration caused by the bolus feeds. There will be less diarrhea, less swings in sugar levels, and less staph interaction and less exposure. The monitoring of GI intolerance is indicated, but we should not be relying our GI intolerance monitoring on GRV, that is gastric residual volume, because they are not reliable to predict the GI intolerance, and the frequent GRV estimation is not possible because it increases the exposure to COVID-19 virus. So European guidelines say not to check the GRV during the enteral nutrition. However, you should monitor for the vomiting and diarrhea, and if the patient is having nausea, you can use 5-HT3 antagonist. If patient is having vomiting, then you can use the prokinetics, and also consider the post-pyloric feeding in very restricted group of patients in which there is a vomiting. Probiotic is advised for diarrheal episode, and discontinue the enteral antibiotics. Should we feed during the prone position? That is the question many clinicians ask who are working in COVID ICU, and during awake prone and during the prone in a paralyzed patient, they ask whether to feed. So yes, we can feed them. It is quite safe. The continuous feed should be started at 10 to 20 ml per hour. That is very slow rate. And the head of the bed should be elevated at 10 to 25 degrees, and the prokinetic may be used to prevent the risk of aspiration and facial edema. During ECMO, early enteral nutrition is advised, low dose enteral nutrition is advised, and if the patient is on vasopressor, definitely you should hold the enteral nutrition. regarding the omega-3 fatty acid supplementation, guidelines say yes, because the supplementation decreases the length of ventilation and length of ICU stay in ARDS patient according to a study performed in 2019. It also increases the oxygenation, PF ratio, etc. However, there is no survival benefit, but we should always take the advantage of omega-3 fatty acid as a immunomodulator, which could be useful in COVID-19, and many studies are underway to determine the impact of omega-3 fatty acid on the course of COVID-19 disease. The recommended dose of omega-3 fatty acid is 3.5 gram per kg per day. Glutamine as an enteral supplement should be discouraged because results from recent study and meta-analysis indicate that indiscriminate use of glutamine supplementation in critically ill patients may actually cause harm rather than beneficial effects. And recently, a high plasma glutamine concentration during critical illness has been suggested to be an ominous prognostic sign. So, hypothesis is that the patients with hypoglutaminemia, that is low glutamine level, at ICU admission may benefit from IV supplementation to normalize the plasma glutamine level, and this hypothesis should be tested. Now the dilemma remains regarding the NIV in COVID-19 hypoxemic respiratory failure, whether should we hold gastric feed or not. So answer is we should not hold in all the patients, but there is an option of providing RT feed without any leak. The solution to leak of minute ventilation in an IV due to RT can be solved with the introduction of this special mask which has two ports, one port for the gases and another port for RT. Okay, another researcher came with extra port in this connector for a gastric drainage tube, because during an IV patient's stomach is distended due to continuous insufflation by CPAP. So now we have reached to the end of this presentation, and definitely you should take few take home messages. So initiate the enteral nutrition earlier is better, but you should always start low and slow with hypocaloric nutrition not exceeding 70% of estimated energy. Okay, and continuous feed is always better than bolus feed. Shock states should not give you should not give enteral nutrition. Rather, we can think of trophic low and slow enteral feed rate, that is up to 10 ml per hour. However, the prone position is not a contraindication for enteral nutrition. NIV low volume and hypocaloric plus prokinetics supplement with parenteral nutrition should be the ideal nutritional strategy. And omega-3 fatty acids are recommended immunonutrition. So thank you so much for watching this video.